I read the most books I've ever read in a month in July, and here are my ratings and reviews. I think I read 10. Half were physical books. Well, I guess 6 were physical books technically because one was on my Kobo. 4, I think, were audiobooks. So I'm gonna start off with the audiobooks just so that I can pull them up on my phone and talk about those, and then we'll get into the physical books. This was such a good reading month for me. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so happy. I'm really just trying to take advantage of the fact that I'm on mat leave, and this is the last time that I'll ever be on mat leave, and possibly the last time that I will ever have read this much consecutively. So I don't know, it just feels good, and it's summertime, and I feel like I found so many different genres this month that I enjoyed. So let's just get into it. All right, the first audiobook that I finished was Malibu Rising. This is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She is honestly one of my, if she writes something, I'm gonna read it, because I think the first book that I read by her was 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I loved that book so much. I rated it 5 stars that I was like, I will read anything that comes out by this woman. So she is a required read for me. However, I only rated this 3.5 stars. And it's weird because the setting, it was like on the beach, surfer family. It kind of seemed like the perfect summer read, and maybe if it was a physical book I would have felt differently. And I feel like I say this about literally every audiobook ever, because I'm actually not really an audiobook girl, but because of time constraints and how much I'm in the car, I have to listen to audiobooks. Let me see, what was my review? Here is what I wrote on Fable. Yet another read with frustratingly emotionally unavailable idiotic men. Okay, so we can see where I got where I got the 3.5 stars. I enjoyed getting to know the main family and getting a glimpse into the lives of the other random side characters, but I did find that it also took away from the story a little bit given the length of the book. Apologies to all of the eldest daughters out there. Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of like little snippets given to all of these other random side characters, and I kind of thought that it was going to draw back in at some point, and it never did. And sometimes I can enjoy that, but in this book it was kind of like, okay, what are we doing? Because it wasn't a very long book, so it just felt like filler. Like it just felt like unnecessary filler. Yeah, just what are you doing, Mikriva? And then also, what are you doing? I don't even remember her husband's name. Like, what's your problem? Just frustrating. The next audiobook was We Burn So Bright by TJ Klune. I haven't read a TJ Klune book in a while, but I love their books. I love the writing. I think The House on the Cerulean Sea, or maybe Under the Whispering Door. I don't know which one's my favorite, but I love those 2 books. Like, those are 2 very good books that I highly recommend anybody read. I rated this one 4 stars. This one was a very short book. I think it was like, it says it's 170 pages, but I think it was only like a 5 or 6 hour audiobook. I rated this one 4 stars. TJ Klune is just like always writing these heartbreaking narratives that are also like heartwarming, but just making you want to cry all the time. But I think I wrote here that it's a beautiful balance, and I loved getting to meet the strangers along the way and listening to how each of these different people are coping with this mass tragedy. If you know, you know. It's a book that I feel like everybody should probably read this. There are trigger warnings, so please pay attention to those, because I don't really pay attention to trigger warnings because I, for some reason, feel like I just don't need to. Like, I don't feel like I get too upset by things in books. When I'm reading something, I don't feel too triggered by stuff, but this one made me quite emotional. It's not like that it's written like anything's crazy vulgar or descriptive, but just the way that this author writes is just buckle up. It's a lot. The next audiobook is The Maidens by, and I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, Alex Michaelides. I rated this 3.25 stars. This is the author that wrote The Silent Patient, which I read a couple of years ago, and that one's a really popular book. This one was, what do I want to say? What do I want to say about, I'm looking through other people's, everyone in this book needs therapy. Yeah, this was, I still don't know how I feel about this. At the end, I was just kind of like, what just happened? It follows like there's this murder that happens, and these murders that keep happening, and then it's mainly following this therapist, this psychologist, and she has a troubled past as well, and then she has connection to this university where these murders are happening, and all of this stuff is just like tumbling downwards, and she is digging herself into a hole deeper and deeper, trying to figure out what's going on. I don't even know how to describe how I feel about this book. Was I hooked the whole time? Not really. I liked the narrator. I liked the narrator, and that's probably the main reason I was able to stay paying attention to this book, because otherwise it was a little bit boring, I'm not gonna lie. Sue me. The last audiobook that I read, which I just finished yesterday, I think, was Giovanni's Room. I rated this 4 stars. This was short and sweet and beautiful and emotional. It was also one that I went in blind. I go in blind with a lot of older classics. I just hear people talk about them, say that they're classics, say that like it's a must read, and I'm like, okay, I trust you. Like, I don't need any more information. I'm quite stubborn about, not even that a summary is a spoiler, because it's not, but I like, for some reason my brain sometimes refuses to read summaries and just go into something blind, which is the same with like movie trailers and show trailers. I just like to go into something and see what happens. So that's what happened with this book. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know that this was about a gay man in the 50s, or the book came out in the 50s. I'm assuming it was set in the 50s. Yes. In 1950s Paris. So it's just this American living in Paris, and he's kind of trying to find himself. He's like a closeted gay man, and there's so much, there's a lot of emotion in that. There's also just like a couple of twists that happen. I was really hooked the whole time, just with the writing. The writing and the prose was beautiful. Really enjoyed the fact that I was more hooked listening to this book versus a like murder mystery thriller, simply because the writing was just so like evocative. You could tell that there was a story to tell here, and it all came together in the end. It was very well done, and I highly recommend it. Okay, now we're gonna get on to the physical books, but I'm going to start with the one that I just finished moments ago, because it was an ARC read and it was on my Kobo. And I wanted to get it done because I was almost finished it anyway, and because it's July 31st as I'm filming this, so I was like, well, I might as well round off the month with an even 10. So this book was Roots and Wrath by E.D. Wenstrom, sorry. Nope. Roots and Wrath by E.J. Wenstrom. I rated this 3 stars, and I feel a little bit guilty about that, but I did, like, I went on NetGalley, I gave a detailed like reasoning and everything like that. I was hooked for the first probably 50% of this book. It was really good and interesting. The setting is really cool. It's these witches in this castle school in Maine. Like, it's just so cool, and it would be like the perfect read for the fall. And it is going back between like a then and now timeline, which sometimes hits for me, sometimes doesn't. In this case, when it was starting out, I really only wanted the then, like the back then when they were in school. I really wished that it was just like that, but for the logic of the story, it makes sense. It makes sense to go back and forth. So I'm not saying that it should be one way or the other, but personally, I was like just looking forward to every time it would go back to then. So this setting was really cool. The characters are also interesting. There's a bunch of different characters, and in the, I don't know if it's in the summary or the way that the author talks about it online, is comparing it to Yellow Jackets, which there is a very clear parallel with the characters, to some characters in Yellow Jackets. So the fact that I saw them talk about that online before did make it a lot easier to picture, but also sometimes I kind of don't like that. I kind of wish, again, that I went in blind and I just got to picture that myself, but because then I was just picturing this particular character from Yellow Jackets. But anyways, then we got to like the 50% mark, and I kind of feel, okay, this thing is really bothering me, because are you supposed to have your ears covered or not? Because I feel like I look weird when my ears, whatever. I found that I was getting pulled away from the story quite a bit with the amount of grammatical and spelling errors that there were. And then later on, which I don't think was an issue in the first half of the book, but later on, the pacing irregularities were a lot. I At the end, which I wrote all this in my review, I felt like I was getting whiplash because it went from like there's a very clear back and forth, and then it was just like all of this just happened at once, and then it's the end. And I was like, oh my God, wait, what? I feel like there should have been at least an extra 100 pages to sort out all of these irregularities, to be able to write them the whole second half of the book well. And also obviously to like correct all of the errors that were in there. Cause yeah, I was getting very distracted by having to like highlight all of those different things, having to read back sentences and be like, what are they trying to say here? Oh, okay, this was just, they used the wrong pronoun or something. And so it was a little bit confusing. But again, it was just, there's a lot of potential. I do think that this author is a good writer. I think that they can write a good book, and I don't want to harp on the bad too much because I really, really enjoyed the first half of it. Okay, now I finally get to hold the physical books, which I'm so excited about. So this was actually the first book that I read this month. Best Offer Wins by Marisa Kashino. This basically follows this woman that keeps losing housing bidding wars. They're in DC, I think. She just wants to find like her forever home, her perfect home. Everything else in her life is going just grand, but she's getting sick and tired of living in an apartment with her husband. It turns from, okay, I found this beautiful house that I want that is not on the market yet. So she's kind of sneaking around, playing her cards carefully. It essentially turns into her wanting to get ahead of them listing the house, to stalking, doing some other crazy shit in order to obtain this house and get what she wants, and a lot of stuff in between. And it turns really fucked up if you couldn't tell by the cover. That was pretty good. I rated this a 3.5 stars. I feel like there were a lot of little things that kind of annoyed me. Like there was some language that the author used that made me feel she was kind of writing the main character about herself. Like if you read the summary about the author, it's like, okay, is this main character supposed to be you? Because some of the things that she says are kind of fucked up. You're not supposed to like the main character, I get that. But she says some stuff about like homeless people, and just she's like not a nice person. I don't know, it was kind of strange how there were like parallels between the author and her, and then how she's a weird person, but whatever. Next I read House of Rain by Harley LaRue. This is my first Harley LaRue. I do have another one that I bought to be read this fall, which I'm excited about. But this one is a sapphic gothic romance set in the Pacific Northwest on this island. It's interesting. This was another one where I was like really, really hooked in the first half. But one thing that I will say is this, maybe it's a spoiler, so spoiler alert. One of the girls has a thing for being called madam, and that kind of turned me off every single time she asked for it. Like there's a lot of like spicy scenes and she keeps being asked to be called madam, and I was like, this is kind of weird and I don't like it. It like took me out of the scene every time she said that. So that was like a little bit odd. It was also another one where I was like, okay, this author has the potential to write a good book, because the writing, it wasn't awful, but there were some pacing inconsistencies. Some parts felt jumpy, some parts felt like they were paced well, so it was just like, okay, what's going on? And then I also felt like there were so many moments when I was just getting into the thriller of it, and then there would be a spicy scene. Not that it has to be one or the other, but I don't think the spice and the thriller of it was balanced well enough for me to feel strongly about it. You know, I can't rate it for either genre because it was just so in between both, and I don't know. I feel like one or the other should have been dialed back a little bit, and then I could have maybe had a little bit more focus on the story. So I rated this 2 stars, unfortunately. Next up we have Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I had actually started a couple of years ago and DNF, and I know for a fact that I'm not the biggest fan of Emily Henry's work, but I also know that previously I've not been a big fan of romance, and I have been really getting back into romance, so I decided to give it a try, especially because it's a summer book. So I picked it up. I did like the main characters. I liked their background struggles and getting to know them a little bit. They felt relatable, like I could understand them. The side characters were all fun. I think where I struggled with this was the witty humor that the author uses is a little bit, it's overused and it's cringy because of the age of the characters. And I think I realized this when I read Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I really liked the way that she did her witty humor, banter, if you will. I think hers was done really well because it wasn't constant and it felt age appropriate. Like I feel like the banter that you do, it feels extra cringy when it's like we're talking about, I don't want to say middle-aged people. How old are these guys? Are they middle-aged? I don't want to be offensive. But they are definitely older than university-aged kids. So that would make sense for university-age kids. But for these guys, it just felt a little bit cringy and maybe like they needed to act our age, you know? And it was just laid on so thick that I was like, okay, can we give it a rest? And then also, not to be a grump, but I thought the ending was a little bit too textbook romance, happy ending. I was like, okay, I guess anybody could have predicted that. There was nothing to it. I don't know. I didn't really like that. So I rated this, I think I rated this 3.25 stars. I still enjoyed parts of it. I think the setting really helped. I think the fact that they were both writers really helped because I was really into writing when I was reading this, which I just haven't had the time lately, honestly. But when I was reading this, I was writing also. So it lined up well for me. So that's what earned it the 3.25. I honestly don't think I would have rated it that highly in any other case. Then we have The Odyssey. Would I say this is a must read, particularly with the film coming out? No. Am I glad I read it? Maybe. I'm proud of myself for reading it. I'm glad that I've read a classic. Wouldn't read it again. I rated it 3 stars. It was pretty good. It wasn't like I hated my life while I was reading it, but it just took so much effort to read it, and it was like, okay, it was okay. I liked the themes that it was talking about. Obviously, there are grand trials and tribulations that happen in here, but it's ultimately about good people, bad people, and stuff like that. I'm at the point in this video where I've run out of words, and I also have no idea when the baby's gonna wake up, so I'm flustered. It was pretty good. I think 3 stars is a fair rating. Classics may not be for me. Lastly, we have Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This beautiful book earned itself a 4 star because I absolutely devoured this. I think in 2, maybe 3 days, which, considering the amount of time that I have to read books, I think is particularly impressive. The setting of this book being at a summer camp on a lake, there's a hockey player and a girl with no filter that just like plows her way through life. Me and Josh. This book I think was made for me. I really loved it. I feel kind of guilty for rating it only 4 stars, but I reserve the right for my 5-star books, okay? I'm still getting used to romance books. They are still, I think, not the hardest thing to write, so I feel like I have to save my 5 stars for things that are just a little bit higher grade, you know? Like, I'm not saying that this wasn't hard to write and that she's not a good writer. Obviously, I really enjoyed this, but this was like a 4. This was a very good 4-star read. I loved it. I can't wait to read Icebreaker, which this is the second book. This one is set in the summer and Icebreaker is during hockey season, so I will be reading that one in the winter and I can't wait. Again, like I mentioned when I was talking about beach read, the banter in this I think is done so well. Like, I was giggling, kicking my feet. I vlogged when I was reading this, so you can literally see that in real time. I had such a good experience. It was 10 out of 10 experience reading this book. And the fact that I got it for $10 from HomeSense, I'm not gonna shut up about that. Hello. That's all of my books for July. I read 10 books. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so happy. I have started a book club on Fable for the month of August. I'm just doing like 1 book a month for a book club. I don't know if that's normal. I've never done a book club, like ran one, nor have I ever been a part of one. So I don't really know what's normal and what's not. I'm just figuring it out. It's just online. So I have it on here and we're going to be reading In Her Defense by Philippa Malika. Let me just get this is what we're going to be reading for the month of August and I absolutely can't wait. Like, I literally, today's, like I said, July 31st. Since I finished 2 books in the last 2 days, I have been itching to start this, but I know that I have to wait until tomorrow. So I'm going to but it's Gwen Adelaide. I'm Gwen Adelaide on everything. I'm posting daily on TikTok, Instagram, weekly on YouTube, all the time on Fable. Join my book club. I would love, I just want to talk about the books as I'm reading them because this is really fun. I love doing this content, but I would also just love to be able to chat about, like, as I'm reading a chapter and being like, what is everybody's thoughts on this? Oh my God, this is crazy. Or I really just love this type of writing. I've never been able to connect that deeply on that level with anybody on books like that. So I'm really pumped. I would be really happy if even just one person joined my little bookie club and read this with me. So this video isn't going up until August 7th, but you still have the whole month of August to join. I will be happy to take anybody joining at any time, and obviously we'll be reading another book in the month of September. We can have a little vote happen maybe mid to end August on what September's book will be, and it'll be really fun because it will be a fall read. I can't wait. Thank you for watching if you stuck around this long. I'll see you again soon.